If you're thinking about moving to Redding or maybe starting a business here and you're curious about the support, challenges, or even if a small town like ours could support big dreams, well, this episode of Rooted in Redding is for you. Today, I sit down with Todd Jones, who is the president of Redding Chamber of Commerce, to hear his take on Redding. Okay, so I'm really excited about this episode of Rooted in Redding because being somebody born and raised here my whole entire life, we've grown a business for the last 7 years, watching the development and growth of Redding as a whole. It's really cool to see where Redding is headed, but also there's a lot of conversation of, does Redding have areas to improve? Population growth, tourism attractions, all that kind of stuff. And so today we are bringing in Todd, who is the president of Redding Chamber of Commerce, and just kind of give some people a background of your kind of history in business and where your role is right now with Redding.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. So I am originally from, I was born in Redding actually, but my family moved to Trinity County. I'd moved around a little bit when I was little, but I really spent the majority of my childhood in Weaverville, where I grew up. And for those that know the Redding area, being from Weaverville, Redding is kind of like your home too.
Yeah.
I'm not from here. I can't say I'm like originally born and raised here like you and my wife. But I'm a North State native. That's what I like to say. So I've seen a lot in Redding. My family's from Redding. My dad went to Central Valley High School in the 60s. My mom grew up in Red Bluff. So I've been around the North State my entire life. And it's really exciting to be in this role now at the Redding Chamber of Commerce, where I get to take part in what is happening to help develop our city, because I think a lot of what the chamber is people that are supporting each other. It's a network of people, but we're a membership association, and what we're trying to do is help make Redding a better place to do business. So I actually first came to Redding to work for Congressman Wally Herger about 15 years ago. So he was our congressman here. And in that role, I got plugged in super, super quick to all these different players in Redding. Certainly somewhat of a segment of like political type stuff, government stuff. And then I've done a few things over the years. Most recently, before I came to the chamber, I was the president and CEO of the Shasta Economic Development Corporation. And I was there for about 7.5 years. So EDC's big goal is to recruit new businesses to towns. Also, they work with Startup Redding, and they work with air service development. So I was really involved in that for years. And when the opportunity at the chamber opened up, it felt like something I could not pass up to go for, because the chamber's been around for 117 years in Redding.
Definitely longer than I've been allowed.
Which is a long time. And the chamber's done a lot for Redding over the last 117 years of our history. And I feel like the chamber is a place for me and our community to make Redding better. EDC is like selling, they're selling businesses to come here. We're like product development. We want to make Redding more competitive. And my vision is to make Redding the best place in California to do business. Right. Because like it or not, we're in California. Yeah. California can be hard to do business.
Yeah.
But I think those tides are shifting. And I think that people see the opportunities that we have here, living in the 5th largest economy in the world, but having a much cheaper cost of doing business. I think we have a ton of opportunity in Redding, and I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so with your experience at the EDC, how do you feel like that background really has helped shaped where you're trying to take, the commerce and leading businesses coming to that area? Do you feel like it comes with a bit more of like a foundational, structural, economic background that can then give better direction prior to maybe who was in your role?
Yeah, I think what it helps me understand is like, why did companies not choose to come to Redding? Mm-hmm. Why did they not come here? And there's a lot of reasons. I would say the biggest one, I'll give you the number one reason. I would say there's really 3 big reasons. Number one, California regulatory environment. That is very, very difficult. What can we do in Redding to bring that burden down for that regulatory environment? Like our city and our county, I wouldn't say they're adding a lot of regulatory burden on top of the state, but is there ways we can make that process easier? So regulatory burden's a big one. And if we want to recruit a new company at the chamber, I also want to focus on the companies that are here in Redding. Mm-hmm. Like we want to help our companies in Redding grow, and we want to enable them to be successful. And it's not always going to be like a one-on-one conversation or training, but like an overall, how are we going to make Redding a better place to do business from like a big picture perspective that's going to impact all of us. Right. So regulatory environment's number one reason people don't come to California. Number two is energy prices. So in Redding and in Shasta Lake, we are super, super fortunate to have our own utility companies. RU and Shasta Lake Power is incredible. It's super affordable. However, it is still way more expensive than our neighboring states. So we're about half the cost for the state of California. So if you want to be in California and open up a manufacturing business or something like that, Redding is going to be a great spot if you want to be in California. There was a company we worked with for years that would have been a great fit for this area. They were searching all these West Coast states, and they ended up going to Oregon because they could save $8 million a year on natural gas.
Jeez Louise.
Because natural gas and electricity, it's super expensive.
Changed.
And again, that's all regulatory. Regulatory stuff makes energy super expensive.
Yeah.
And energy is a huge deal, specifically for bigger businesses. And I would say the third reason is workforce. We have had a pretty stagnant population growth over the last several decades. And people are leaving, people are coming, but our workforce participation rate and our total available workforce is pretty low. Since 2008, we've actually seen about 12 to 15,000 people fewer in our workforce than we had in 2008. So after 2008, the recession, we just lost a bunch of people. And then COVID, another wave, lost a bunch of people, where people are just not re-entering the workforce. And so if you're going to hire a bunch of people, which is the companies that I was working with at the EDC, having available workforce is a big deal. And it doesn't just impact them, it impacts our local businesses too, where, you know, it's not just trained workers. It's like entry-level workers. They just can't find people. There's not enough people to fill these jobs. So I think workforce, population growth, those are really areas that I think we could focus on, and let's make Redding bigger.
Why do you think, well, for the workforce, because it is a true statement, if you look at the Census Bureau, like Redding has not grown a whole lot.
No.
And it's also a really rural town. You know, I would say that we have a lot to offer for what our town can, you know, accommodate. But if you go to like Sacramento, you know, obviously you're going to have multiple options of, you know, a hospital, a specialist, all those kinds of things. So do you feel that now post-COVID, everything, it's crazy that we still talk about like post-COVID, it is, 5 years ago. Do you feel like that's going to change, or, you know, population is going to grow, or what do you think is going to take for the population to actually, I guess, reach a little bit of a higher trajectory on where it's kind of been stagnant?
I think a lot of it is honestly like marketing Redding. Now that I'm at the chamber, we also have the privilege to run Visit Redding. So we're the Visitors Bureau for the city of Redding. We have a contract with the city, and our goal is really to increase visitation. That's like our goal. We want more tourists to come here to pay that transient occupancy tax, which short-term rentals and hotels pay, and that goes to the city of Redding for the general fund, and then we get some of that money to market Redding. So we get $1 million a year to market Redding. And so again, our number one goal, and I'll get to your question, is to get more tourists here, but I actually see Visit Redding as like a two-edged sword, if you will, where I want more people to move here.
Yeah.
So I think Visit Redding is like the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
You talk to a lot of people still today, there's a lot of reasons people move to Redding, but a common one that I still hear is like, I came here on a houseboat when I was a kid. I came fishing, I came camping. I did this stuff, and I don't hear it all the time, but I hear it pretty frequently. And if we can use that and say, hey, why don't you live here? Why don't you live in Redding too? We are an affordable place to live. Housing prices are still really affordable compared to the rest of the state. And really, I would say, compared to most of the West now. I mean, yeah, you can live in the middle of freaking Nevada, but who wants to do that? You want to live somewhere awesome like Redding. So housing prices are still affordable. You know, electricity, again, for Redding and Shasta Lake specifically, is pretty affordable, and quality of life is way better. So I think if we can market that stuff for that tourism tip of the spear moment, but then also try to get them to stay here and see all that we have to offer, I think we can get more people to move here. So,
and prior to you taking, I don't know how long Visit Redding's been around, but prior to you taking on that role, was there really much marketing to bring people to Redding, or was it kind of just like, oh, Redding's...
From like a tourism perspective? Yeah, I mean, Visit Redding's been around for a long time, so it's ebbed and flowed, and I think one of the challenges that Visit Redding has had prior to the chamber taking it on was we spend most of our money out of town. So like all of our ad dollars, we go out of town.
Got it.
LA, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, Tahoe, Medford, Eureka, and all these other places that we have direct flights. Seattle, you know, we had Burbank marketing. And so people didn't really know what we were doing. But I think now a lot of local people follow Visit Redding's Instagram specifically, which is like the best in town, I think. And I think it helps like a sense of pride. So yes, we were trying to reach that outside market, but people here see it and they're like, wow, Reading's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that helps us because years ago, we started the Reading City Identity Project. So this was something that Jake started, my predecessor, back in 2019 to have 20 ideas by 2020. We didn't finish all of those ideas yet because of COVID, partially. But one of those things was like, we want to help with like SEO, online reputation, our brand identity. Like
when people search Reading.
Yeah, when people search Reading, we want to see good stuff, not bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm not naive the fact that we have bad things going on in Reading, but we have so many good stories and so many good things happening that one bad article, like I don't want that to just weigh us down.
Right. And I also think like, you know, I say this in the most polite way possible, but I think Reading is also a mom and pop town.
Sure.
And so a lot of people are concerned about too much change.
They don't want too much growth either.
Too much growth. And then they don't want too much commercialism to come into the Reading area because like then we're going to become a big city. So there's this like balancing point of how do you make it still small town vibe feels, but also grow so that we're not a stagnant population. And so, I mean, you know, even my folks are, you know, they live in Palisades. They're like, no, like, you know, consumerism, like, you know, we want to keep this small town, which I'm like, I totally appreciate. But like at some point, something has to change or be slow growth to create a better economy, population, you know, the headlines that some people might read, make those better because we have more income coming to support like the police department,
right,
all these different things. And so it's always interesting to me, like the people that want change, but then the people that get change, it's always this like, you know, giving it in a perspective of like, there's going to be risk with it.
Sure.
But there's also at the end of the day, like you have to do it. Otherwise a town, you know, is going to stay stagnant, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of hope for Reading and like people that want to see it thrive and grow. But I also think that there's just people that are just generally like, I don't want change. Like, I want it to be the way it's been and never change.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been fun to watch. I mean, I've only been on this planet for 31 years, but it's been fun to see like downtown Reading change, like the positive growth of like how much you guys involve with businesses. So if I was like somebody coming to Reading, I had a business, let's just say, I don't know, I made candles, let's say. And what do you guys do? Like, what's the process to like be involved in your organization to see kind of support and growth for me planting some roots here in Reading?
Yeah, sure. So I would say if you're a candle maker, I would call you a manufacturer. So we would probably actually put you in touch with the EDC first to help you like maybe find a location, you know, if there's some programs available for you to relocate and like start a manufacturing business. But if you came here and you're open up like a sandwich shop or something like that, we would want you to join the chamber because we are really a group of people that want to support each other. I think that's like a real core foundation of what the chamber is. There's a lot of things that we do, but that networking and connectivity and connectedness of the chamber and what that provides is super valuable. We have about 800 members right now, and you know we have a ton of networking and marketing events.
800 businesses?
800 businesses.
Wow.
So that 800 businesses, I don't know this number. I'm going to find out.
Okay.
But it's probably tens of thousands of employees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly tens of thousands.
Yeah.
If you look at, you know, the Dignity, Sierra Pacific Industries, some of those major employers, the city of Reading is a chamber member. So all these big companies are members, but then we have a ton of sole proprietors. About 80% of businesses in Shasta County have less than 5 employees. So there are a ton of very, very small businesses.
Right.
And like visibility, networking, connection, marketing, all that stuff can feel really hard. And so if you come and join the chamber, a lot of times you're going to get what you give, right? So you're going to come to some events, and it looks different for everybody. If you're Sierra Pacific Industries, you're going to have a different value proposition for the chamber than if you're a stylish shop.
Right.
So that Sierra Pacific, you know, they want to be good partners in the community. So they're really supporting us, and then we can support other businesses.
Right.
And then these small businesses, you can come to our networking events. We have greeters every week. We have happy hours once a month. And then we're going to start doing more classes and resource things and partner with resource providers in town to provide training to businesses. And so it really is like that family of people that want to support you. And we all want Reading to be better, and we all want each other to be better too. So
almost like a
typically support group.
Yeah, it's almost like a big, massive BNI.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody, but it's like you're not excluded because you're not like, you know, we can only have one sandwich per person, you know.
Yeah, we can have 10. We can have everybody.
Yeah.
And we have greeters every week. We have over 100 people at greeters every single week.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who you are. You don't even have to be a member technically to come for a few times, but if you start coming to greeters and you're not a member, then we're going to start giving you we're going to ask you to be a member. So
better bring those cookies.
Yeah.
So obviously, Reading Chamber cannot like save every business. There's going to be some pros and cons to every business, and what additional support do you guys give that could be helpful for a restaurant business per se?
Sure. Restaurants that are members close. Like we can look at like Moonstone Bistro or something like that. They were a member for many, many, many years. They closed last summer. A new restaurant's coming in there later this year, which is going to be exciting. But I don't know all the reasons that they closed, but could we have saved them? No, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like I can't save a business, like a restaurant or a business is going to come and go. But our hope is that we can at least get in front of it. So like if there's a business that's struggling, if there's something that we can connect them with, we want to, because there are so many resources in Shasta County from local, state, and federal like partners and funding agencies and all these things. And a lot of businesses don't even know they exist.
Right.
And so I know they're there. A lot of our chamber staff knows they're there. So if we know, hey, did you know you can get this like super low interest loan with no strings attached from Superior California Economic Development or whatever, we want to be able to help you. But again, life happens and some businesses are going to close and there's nothing we can do.
Being in real estate and having a lot of newcomers come to our area, life can look a little bit different here. I tell people that we're a very outdoorsy area. Like you have to love the nature. Like I know that our nightlife scene's kind of trying to, improve with. We talked with Tara over at Cascade Theater last week episode, and she talked about all just the different events that are always going on and how to be involved. But I always feel like the food scene kind of struggles a little bit in our area. Based on, I think, just that we're our smaller population, it is a huge cost just in the state of California with regulations and everything.
Minimum wage for restaurants? Gosh.
So you can't even say it.
Yeah.
Minimum wage, don't hire me. Minimum wage for restaurants and everything. With the food scene and everything like that, people coming to our area, like from big city, kind of hope to have options. And sometimes it's not a big thing on their wish list. Where do you see, I guess, maybe why restaurants kind of tend to fail a little bit here in our area versus what's kind of maybe the holdback that some people just don't want to, create a bigger food scene?
That's a really good question. I have a lot of personal opinions, which I got to be careful so I don't get myself in trouble. But I actually I had a conversation with Sam. We're at Theory right now. So, when Sam first came to town, I had him on my podcast a couple weeks ago, the City Builders podcast, which will come out shortly. It's not out quite yet. And we talked about the food scene. And, when Sam came to town, I would say craft coffee, third wave coffee. There was already some coffee roasters in town. We have a lot of great coffee roasters in town. We have Theory, we have Feast, we have Heritage, we have some other coffee roasters, and they all do a great job. But I think craft coffee, it seemed to me, the first time I had it, I hated it. Mm-hmm. It was too weird and I didn't like it. Then over time, people obviously love it. I think people are into coffee in Reading, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap, but people appreciate it. And I think people are starting to see the value in it. So I think we're like training our locals. We're training our locals. So they're adapting, they're coming. You look at the restaurant next door, Pipeline, they have done like zero marketing and that I know of, and they are super popular. Obviously, people know them from out Shasta. Right. They're open, I think 6 days. I think they're open 6 days a week right now, and their food is really good. Yeah. And it's not the cheapest place in town, but it's relatively affordable, and I think they've done a good job. So I think the quality is helping. So I think you look at Pipeline, you look at Theory and these other coffee shops, I think the quality speaks. And then you have other places like, I hate to say this on the podcast or the episode, but PCI, like they'd probably hate me out there if I told people to go there, but people love PCI.
Yeah.
You're making your own food basically. Yeah. But like that vibe, you go to Jack's or one of these other places, like
it's a nostalgic.
There's different things people are going for. It's not always going to be like you want the best thing in town, like it's the very cream of the crop or that burger or whatever. It's the atmosphere, it's the vibe, it's the people. I used to love going to Dry Creek, and I'm sad that they're closed now, but
yeah,
I used to go to Dry Creek all the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best steak I ever had in my life, but it was a great atmosphere and it's a good value.
With the kind of your role in that, do you feel that some of the pushback is possibly the city in kind of supporting like opening? I mean, there's just so many hurdles like you have to go through just across the board. Yeah. Do you feel like the city is helpful in that?
I don't know if there's a lot the city could do. Like if you're going to make a good product, like it's going to it's going to work out.
Yeah.
You know, you look at like Odell Barbecue or whatever.
Right.
You know, if you make a good product, people are going to want to buy it.
Right.
Like when he was doing pop-ups here, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, like it was just like a line out the door all the time. So I think a good product is going to help you a lot. I think from like the building department specifically for restaurants, I don't think there's a lot that the city is doing to make it exceptionally harder. Are there ways they can improve it? I think so, absolutely. But you know, if you want to have a fryer, you have to have a hood, you have to have all these things. And so California building code, which is like the same building code that Redding has, Redding does not have, in the county, do not have more things on top of the statewide standards, which they cannot go below. They have to do this. So building out a kitchen is very expensive in California, and I don't think Redding makes it more expensive. You have to have a grease trap, you have to have a hood, you have to have fire suppression, you have to have all these things, and then you have to work with the county health department to get signed off, which can be hard, but I think we're also thankful that the health department is looking at local restaurants to say, hey, are you like doing the right stuff to make sure your food is safe and you're not serving rotten food and all these things. So,
right.
I think the process could probably be better, and I think they could be a little bit more proactive. But in California, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive to build a kitchen, which is a really big barrier to having more restaurants in town for sure.
Yeah, and I think like it goes back to like the comment I made. I think that there's a balance of people who want to see growth, but then like if a new restaurant comes in, like kind of like you were saying, craft coffee, everybody was just like,
yeah,
too bougie here.
Yeah,
like we just need like our Folgers coffee,
right,
you know?
Right.
Like we don't need all this kind of stuff. So I feel like when a new food scene comes in, I feel like, again, a little bit of personal opinion, and that's fine. It's my YouTube channel. I can say whatever I want. I feel like there's a little bit of a restriction of just like a high standard for a low price. Like people want like really good food, and if it's too expensive, like some people, you know, and you know, kind of voice their opinion of like, this is too nice for
Redding restaurant reviews.
Yeah.
This
and
craziness.
And it's crazy to me that I'm just like, hey, like people out here are like literally trying to make something different, an alternative option. And so it's like, I think that sometimes these restaurants that come out, like for example, I love La Testimony.
Yeah.
Like amazing crepes, amazing bistro, like all organic. That's a really hard restaurant here to run, and they do a phenomenal job because the cost to run it all organic, homemade, everything comes with a price. And it's just kind of like the demographic that you're serving obviously is going to be willing to pay that.
Right.
And I think it's that balance of like where Redding's at right now is like trying to push us into variety and options versus middle of the road, we're the same chain food restaurant, like okay, cool.
Yeah, KFC opens, you're gonna have a huge line.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah.
And it's just like trying to raise that standard, and like you said, bringing in craft coffee, like getting people used to like a higher standard, to create that environment that somebody feels excited to open you know, something like that up, because they know the community's like wanting that versus like, ooh, this is risky. Nobody's been asking for it. I don't like Moonstone, for example, was like probably one of the best restaurants we had here.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal food. Like you could go there, you know for sure you're going to get a great date night, consistent service, all that kind of stuff. And when they closed, it was like a huge loss for like our community, because I was like, who's going to replace my Moonstone?
Yeah.
You know, there's other great date night spots, like, you know, but there's just something about local bistro, kind of like higher end. And so I think that's like where I'm so hopeful that like as Redding kind of, you know, continues to gain its, you know, place on a map that people know us for, it's like it also encourages people to bring, you know, a new sense of culture without changing the mom and pop feel and the small town vibes, but improving it so that there's just different options for the people that want to come to our area and want to have that like and similar feel, and not just be like, we have, you know, KFC.
Right.
You know?
Right.
We have a lot of chicken spots, by the way.
But chicken's hot right now.
Chicken, we're the capital of the chicken.
Yeah.
Raising Cane's is, I think that'll be spot number 8.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, those are just kind of like my thoughts of where I hope that we can hopefully create a different conversation of support so that we have better options, or encourage better options, and be supportive of those people that come in that, you know, that space. So.
Yeah. And I think change too, going back to that question about change and like resistance to change, you know, you look at something like the Sundial Bridge, it's been open 21 years this year.
It was crazy.
And I was not here. Yeah, I must have been in the military when it opened. So I was not here in the Redding when it opened. I was not in the area, I was overseas. But looking back on some of the news articles, like people were pissed that the Sundial Bridge was getting built. And it was privately funded by the McConnell Foundation.
Yeah.
People were like, we don't need a bridge. Like, this is absolutely crazy. But like, I know there's a few people in town that would say we don't need it still, but like ask almost anybody. Like the Sundial Bridge was a game changer for our area. You look at the Sheraton too, there was a ballot measure whether or not the city could sell the property for the Sheraton to be built back in 2010, I believe it was. And there was a huge opposition to build the Sheraton. Like why are we fighting against this stuff? Why are we so resistant to see this growth and change? And our metropolitan statistical area, which is like the economic statistics for our area, it's called the MSA. We're about 189,000 people, and I think if we're gonna level up to the next level, I think our MSA needs to be like 250,000 people for us to really see new opportunities for growth and amenities and different types of employer types in the Reading area.
Yeah. Well, I say we should walk downtown.
Okay.
You can show me some of the places that you're obviously been supporting in our area, and then kind of like the vision for downtown, because that's been a huge topic for a lot of people of like,
Sure.
That's where everybody's like trying to gather, and public markets, all that kind of exciting stuff. All right, so we are obviously downtown, and we've done a couple episodes in regards to the vision of where downtown Reading has evolved to, especially with the Reading public market. But as Reading Chamber, you guys have obviously put your footprint on a lot of projects, specifically with the City Identity Project list that you guys kind of developed back in 2018. So maybe kind of walk us through what you guys got involved with that identity project list.
Yeah, sure. So back in 2018, Jake Mangus and some consultants, April LaFrance and Jenny Lynn Bunton, helped us come up with this idea, and it was a lot of community input for ideas. And I submitted an idea too that was selected through that, which was helping fund the first Reading Venture Conference, which happened in 2019. And there was 20 other ideas. And again, we're not done with all of them yet, but I think one of the ones I'm most proud of is the Garden of Lights. We paid for the designer to come out, help pay for the designer to come out and do Garden of Lights. And then of course, the McConnell Foundation, REU, a lot of other people helped support the actual creation and implementation of the Garden of Lights. It was a lot more expensive than the $35,000 we submitted or contributed. Mural is the one on the side of Toroku, several downtown that we've helped fund. And this is all through the Ford Reading Foundation, which is the Chamber's 501c3. So the Chamber, in most chambers, any legitimate chamber is a 501c6. So it's a membership association, nonprofit, but this 501c3 Ford Reading Foundation is where the City Identity Project lives. So other things that we're going to do this year are a coffee festival.
Ooh.
So I'm working with Sam at Theory on that. We're also working on a ale trail, and that's kind of in different iterations. I'm not sure where it's going to end up. But we've seen a lot of things happen through the City Identity Project. One I mentioned earlier too is Reading's SEO, so making the visibility of Reading look better. So that's just a kind of a small snapshot of a few of the projects that we did with the City Identity Project. Umbrella Alley, which was behind us. It was Umbrella Alley. We found out that Reading's weather was a little too harsh on the umbrellas, and it was not very sustainable. So now we have some lights up there now. But really, downtown's important to the Chamber because this was the heart of town back in the day. This was Main Street, USA, Highway 99, right through Market Street right here. And we can't take credit for a lot of the work that happened. K2, the city, they're doing this work downtown and investing resources, but we were champions at the Chamber. So we moved downtown about 7 years ago, and we just want to champion the success of downtown Reading. We love all of Reading, but to have this like heartbeat in the central location of town is really important to us, and that's why we've really invested. That Welcome to Reading sign, that was also funded by the Reading City Identity Project. So just creating the sense of place in it being in the cultural district. We're one of 14 cultural districts as well, so kind of leveraging all these things to make Reading more attractive and help improve that culture has been really important to us at the Chamber.
Yeah, I think you guys have done like a phenomenal job, with Visit Reading, just to, like, we've been talking about the SEO, kind of just putting Reading on a map for people. And it's funny is for the people that we help relocate here, it's kind of like, hey, like Reading is cool, So I will say bravo to you guys, especially at Visit Reading, and kind of what you're doing to put Reading on a map, because it's just been so cool to watch something, obviously born, raised here, lived here my whole life, to really try to, articulate to people that Reading is a place that you want to, raise a family, retire here, despite, like we talked about, there's always going to be good parts and bad parts of any town. It's just kind of articulating higher the importance of why Redding's so great, especially if you're going to want to live here in California, which always becomes a little bit of a sticky factor. All right, so before we kind of wrap up this video, I really want to hear from you what the vision of Redding is. Obviously, there might be little bit of angles in terms of the growth of tourism over the last couple of years to Redding, to where just like the future of Redding holds, you know, in your opinion. So maybe give us a little insight.
Yeah.
You know, what's in your brain?
Sure. So in the last 3 years that we've run Visit Redding, we've seen a huge increase in TOT, which again is that one metric that's hotel and short-term rental revenue. So we've seen that go from about $4.5 million per year coming to the city of Redding to over $7.6 million a year. So we've seen a big increase in the last 3 years. So more people are coming here, rates for properties are going up, and so the demand for Redding is increasing. And we've actually looked at other markets like Bend and Medford and Eureka, and we're actually trending higher for demand change. So when people are coming to Redding, then we can track that stuff. My vision for Redding is, again, I want Redding to be the best place in California to do business. And to be the best place in California to do business, we also need to be the best place in California to live. So affordability, quality of life. And I think once you come to Redding, one of the really special things is the people, right? That's what makes it special. There's so many ways to stay plugged in. There's so many ways to stay engaged. There's a group or a nonprofit for everybody. We have 5 Rotary clubs. We have all these Kiwanis and Lions. Like, there's a ton going on. How many other towns have asphalt cowboys? Like, we're it. Rodeo.
Redding, so I don't know.
Rodeo's like a couple months away. So we have a lot of cool things that will keep people here and will keep people engaged and kind of plugged into what's happening here. So I want to see Redding grow. I want more people. I want more people in our workforce. I want people to stay here and come back here. I want more people to visit here. And I think all of those things combined, and if we really hear, if the locals care about Redding more, I think it's going to help us achieve all these things. So I'm really excited.
Supportive community for the greater good of Redding.
Exactly, for everybody, for locals and for visitors and for new people that are going to come to Redding. I think once they come here and spend a little bit of time, it's hard to leave.
Well, I've been here my whole life, so there's that. But if you are somebody looking to move to Redding or visit, check out visitredding.com, as well as if you're a business looking for additional support and thinking maybe Redding could be your spot, Redding Chamber of Commerce is a great resource, especially Todd here, who runs their whole organization. But thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Rooted in Redding, where we not only help you find a home, but a community to thrive in. We'll see you next week.